Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another What I'm Reading Right Now video here on the channel. This is the series where I talk about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, and what I shall be reading next. I'm gonna stop apologising for how slow I'm being at reading lately. Let's just say, maybe this is the new normal. With how I'm working, I finished 3 things since last time we spoke. Let's talk about them. First up, a 2024 release, I finished The Brides of High Hill by Nevo. I do really want to do a full video for this so that I can add on to the video for the other ones. This is the 4th book in the Singing Hills cycle. It is a series about a travelling monk who is a monk for a monastery that records histories and stories. And in this book in particular, the monk is part of a journey with a young bride who is going to see her future husband. She's in an arranged marriage to a future husband, and our main character is accompanying them for reasons that are plot spoilery. And I really like this. I think it's fantastic. It's less story-driven than the other ones have been, I felt. There were definitely still some storytelling elements to it, but it felt more like the character was in a story than the character was exploring kind of the nature of stories, which wasn't a bad thing. I don't think I disliked it, it just felt different to how the other books have felt to me. But given that I wasn't expecting to get another novella this quickly, I was very chuffed, I was very pleased with it. I think if you are a person who knows a lot of folklore and mythology and you see this cover and the title, you'll probably guess some of the inspirations for this, that again I won't get into here because if you haven't guessed them, then it might be a spoiler. Overall, still really love Nevo's writing, still really love this whole series, kind of wish I could own them all, but I'm not a own multiple novellas kind of person right now, certainly not in one series. And yeah, it was a good time, I would recommend. After that, I finished my reread of The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is a book set in the same universe as, I've got it behind me, My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I read last week. The bulk of this book takes place in the 90s in the southern United States, and it's very good. We have a southern book club, a book club filled with these kind of stereotypical, but that's because it's a truth to it, southern housewives, and a vampire comes to town, but nobody believes that the vampire is there. It's very much a kind of gaslighty book. It really explores the ideas of believing women and how medicated women were in that period of time, and there's some very scary horror elements to it. Some of the body horror definitely tips over my personal comfort line. It is just about okay in this, in that I can still recommend the book to you, but if you are not a person who reads a lot of horror, or you have particular things that you don't enjoy, I would check out the content warnings for this. Yeah, I think if you're a hardened horror reader, it's probably fairly safe as a read, but for me personally, I just get a little bit skeeved out. I will have a full video up for this in due course. I need to kind of work out what I'm saying about these horror books because I don't want to seem like I'm passing judgment on them as like an expert, because I'm very much not. These are the main horror books I have read, but I know what I like about what I like, and yeah, these are good. They are very good books. I just don't ever want anyone to come to a video with no context and think that I know a lot about horror, because I really don't. The last thing that I finished yesterday, and that was my audiobook read of Paladins Strength. This is the 2nd book we're reading in our Kingfisher read-along. Heads up for those who are joining us, we might scooch some dates around to let people do audiobook for book 4 in this series. But I will, if I have the time and energy, I will post something about that in Discord for those who want to follow along. This is the 2nd book in the Saint of Steel series. This is a series about a group of paladins whose god has died, and they are still serving, still doing things. This is kind of following that classic romantic fantasy universe thing where we follow characters that we met in book 1, but they were not the protagonists of book 1. At least the romantic male lead in this is Istvan, is someone we met in book 1. And Istvan is off on an adventure and he meets Clara, who is a woman who has some special things about her that I don't want to spoil because I think it is fun to uncover it by yourself, which is what I did. It's a very lovely kind of middle-aged pairing, which is nice. I think the general consensus on Discord has been, this was a fun book, I liked it, but my word, do these two need to go to horny jail. It's very much a book of, shall we say pining? I think pining is probably the kindest way of putting it, but yeah, it's a lot of chapters of thinking about each other's bodies in a lot of different ways. And again, that classic romanticy thing of, is this the right time for this right now? Overall though, knowing that's what it was and had kind of having the expectation set for me by other people, I did enjoy this. I did think it was a good time. I'm excited to read more of these. I think T. Kingfisher does a really good job of combining this very romantic world and these very romantic pairings and a lot of sexual tension and all of the above, with truly horrifying concepts in the background plot going on. It's very, very horror. There's a lot of grossness to it as well. I think possibly my thing with this one is that balance felt not off in terms of the book as a whole, but in terms of the pacing of the book. It felt like we had kind of 60% sexual tension and then 40% gore, and I would have liked a bit more balance between the two across the whole book, just so it felt more even. Still to read this week, Never Have I Ever. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I haven't picked it up. I'm going to. I'm also going to read An Education in Malice. This is the Carmilla retelling. I am looking forward to it. I am going to get to it. It's going to be good. I think I might try and take this on the journey that I've got to go on this evening. And also The Surviving Sky, which is a library book that I don't have near me, or I would hold it up for you, but I've held it up in recent videos. I need to get to that as well. I'm very excited to say that next week, though it is my off week, I have scheduled a couple of things, and I'm going to be starting my reread of N.K. Jemisin's 5th season series, which is just down here behind me. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do a reread of this for literally years and just haven't had the time. Now is the time. I'm going to reread it for Overbooked, and I'm just really looking forward to it. So if they're on your list of things to reread or to re-experience, and you fancy doing that with me, you're very welcome to join. It's going to be the next few weeks. New releases, I just have one thing to talk about. It is Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan. I read this a couple of weeks ago and I liked it. I do recommend it. It wasn't totally 100% for me, but I think there are a lot of people who will really enjoy this. If you like a adventure, you want a book exploring oppression in a lot of different ways, and just some interesting characters in an interesting world. I thought it was very enjoyable in a lot of ways. I didn't love how it came together. I'm really excited to read a second book because I do think this is a book where the second book is going to loop everything together. Sorry to everyone who heard me say that last week, but it bears repeating for people who are just looking to find out more about Fathom Folk. If you were wondering, I said last week I was going to make some changes, and in some ways I have. I think largely those changes have been accepting limitations maybe a bit more, realising how much I need to scale back if I want to do my job in a way that is efficient and also be happy, healthy, not hungry, all of those things. I need to just scale back a bit. So that's what I'm working on, is working through what I'm reading now and not adding loads more into my schedule, which I think was my downfall for January and to be honest for February as well, is there are just too many books to try and read in too short a period of time. So we are expanding, we are enjoying the journey of adjusting to new life things, we are accepting things where they are and not trying to make them what they cannot be. All of the above. I'm having a good time. I'm feeling a bit better mentally having filmed this video, and I'm gonna head on out into the world and try and not get too stressed about things. That's the goal. What have you been reading? What have you been up to? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel in all sorts of different ways and in return get early access to content, bonus content, access to live streams and more. If you want to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one.
It's gonna be some bloopers now.
After that, I finished my reread of The Southern... Every time I can't say it. There is no 30th of February.